Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Running Tales podcast, where I, Craig Lewis, and my wife Michelle tell the incredible stories of everyday runners who've achieved extraordinary things. Die-hard fans of this podcast might remember our chat with Wayne Chalmers back in October 2020. For those who don't, Wayne and his family run Team Daisy. It's a charity aimed at raising money for good causes and honouring the memory of his daughter Daisy, who sadly passed away just an hour after being born. Team Daisy works really hard to raise awareness of baby loss, and it organises lots of events, lots of fundraisers, including taking part in running events. Wayne has previously run a number of half marathons, including the London Landmarks event and the Great North Run. But he's got an even bigger challenge on his mind, and we talked at length about that. I started my interview with him by asking about the work that Team Daisy does and some recent good news.
I can't remember how long ago it was that I was sat in this same room talking to Michelle that time actually about Team Daisy. So Team Daisy started in October 2018 when sadly my daughter passed away. So kind of my idea was to create a legacy in terms of we wanted her to be remembered by lots of people and really to help other people out who were in a similar situation to us or have, and continue to be in a similar situation to us. Yeah, that's how it kind of started. So we've been going now for 4 years, so this month is the 4-year anniversary since she passed away. So in that time we've done a lot of different things. The first thing that we did was really get the name of the organisation out there and spread a bit wider. So yeah, it's started to really pick up, and as we're going to talk about, we've received good news recently where we're going to hopefully have even more of an impact on people.
Yeah, exactly that. That's what we want to talk about. We'll get straight to it really. What's the big news really with Northampton Hospital, and how will that all work?
As I said, 4 years ago when it happened, there were two midwives, they're actually bereavement midwives, and they're both called Rachel, and they're known everywhere as the two Rachels, and lovely people. And at the time we spoke about what we wanted to do, and Team Daisy was literally born 2 days after Daisy passed away. So and I kept in touch. We kept in touch with them, and at that time we were doing things with SANS, and there was a charity called Children Are Butterflies. And what that charity did was, so when a baby or a child passes away, at that time funeral directors didn't receive any funding, but they organised funerals, burial plots, things like that. So Children Are Butterflies was a charity that they were paying for essentially. What happened then subsequently was that charity was no longer needed because government changed policy, and now if your child passes away, it's all the things are covered. So nobody's, even whatever financial situation they're in, they're not going to have that problem anymore. But we were talking about a bereavement suite. They'd been talking about a bereavement suite, and I met the actual Northamptonshire Health Charity yesterday, a guy called Rob, a lovely guy, and he was saying to me, this has been talked about for 15 years, so it's not a new thing. It's been going, and finally they've got the planning approval. We've actually got the figures, the figures out what it's going to cost. Rachel, one of the Rachels, was kind enough to contact me about a month ago and said, would we accept it being named after Daisy? So it's actually going to be called the Daisy Suite down at NGH when it's finally built.
How proud does that make you of, I guess, not only the work that you've done, the fundraising that you've done of Team Daisy, but actually of Daisy herself?
Oh, absolutely, immensely proud. My wife said, obviously, we'd prefer Daisy to be with us, but we can't change that. So this is kind of the next best thing that we can do. For us to get that news and the work that everybody's put in, and it's not just me, it's lots and lots of people. It's brilliant. It's something that when it's built, it'll never be taken away. So it'll be always something we can reflect on that we've done. And obviously once we're finished, we'll continue raising funds. It wasn't just about raising funds, though. It's more about raising awareness of this situation. It's not a nice thing that people like to talk about. I don't know if you've seen there's an advert on TV at the moment about breast cancer, about cancer. And they're saying that when the lady speaks, when people say to people, "Oh, with cancer or whatever kind of condition it is," or "How are you?" everyone just says, "Oh, I'm fine." They might not be fine, but they say that because they want to avoid that awkward conversation. It's the real men are typical of that.
It's a terrible way to help me.
Absolutely. So, it's a bit like the analogy of men who don't like going to the doctors, isn't it? But they don't like talking about things. And I think that is kind of changing a little bit now. But even now, people don't like speaking to me directly about Daisy, and I'm quite happy to talk about it, but I don't want to put them in that situation of them feeling uncomfortable either. So it's a kind of a two-way thing at the same time. It sounds weird, but it is, isn't it?
I guess when it comes to the bereavement centre, how much of a difference, first of all, would that have made to you in that situation that you had to go through, and hopefully to, well, I was going to say hopefully to lots of other people. I wouldn't wish it on anybody else, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. So the main reason, was two reasons really why they wanted to build it. And I'm sure, if you spoke to the Rachels, they'll probably have another 10 reasons. But first of all, if you go into the maternity suite at NGH, where the labour ward is, as you go through the doors and down the left-hand side, it's all the labour ward. That's where all the babies are being born. But on the right, there's something called the Snowdrop Suite, which was funded, I think, by SANS, amongst other people. And that's where you go, where people go if there's, complications with pregnancies and things like that. So that room was built, but, it is part of the maternity suite, but it is quite, out of the way. The problem they have at the moment is when anybody goes back for follow-up appointments, they're revisiting the same place. So, it's a kind of, it's like a double whammy, really. You're going back to the place where you've got these, awful memories.
So just interject, Michelle and I have nothing like that level, but a sort of similar experience to that, in that when we were having IVF, every time we had to go back to be told our IVF hadn't worked or what the next stages were of us basically not being able to have a baby, we were in a waiting room with expectant mothers and loads of kids, and it was like awful. Exactly
that, and that's the real point of the whole thing. So the new suite, I've seen all the plans for it. It looks brilliant. So the access is actually from the outside, so you don't actually have to go through the maternity bit anymore to access the place. And also they're going to have meeting rooms and other bits in there as well, which are going to help people who've been through that experience. So as you've just said, the last thing you want to do is be walking back in there, hearing babies being born and things like that. So it was really important that. It is really important that it gets built, and I believe that they're doing one at Kettering as well. So it just shows that the need is out there. There's still it's staggering figures, but there's still 100 babies in Northampton alone, dying either prematurely or after birth. So I'm not talking about people having miscarriages or anything like that. I'm talking about actual stillbirths and things like that, which is it's a staggering number. Yeah. We did some charity work for Tommy's. We raised like £8,000 for them in 2019, which it goes towards them. But I wanted, and I know it sounds a bit bad, but I wanted, I said at the beginning about the legacy. I wanted to see the result. I just feel like sometimes Tommy's do brilliant work, but that money goes to them, and it doesn't. It's a big organisation. I wanted something a bit more personal, for Daisy in Northampton itself. So that's the reason why it's being built.
And nuts and bolts, I suppose. How much is going to be required to get it to happen, and in what way are you as Team Daisy going to be able to help that happen? And I guess, since we are the Running Tales podcast and we've been talking for 5 or 10 minutes now and haven't mentioned running, how's running kind of going to be involved in that? So,
as I said, I met the charity yesterday, and a kind of ballpark figure, it's going to be about £150,000, which is what we would have expected for a new bill. We just hope that we can get it started as soon as possible, because without starting to talk politics, and I know that's one of your things, inflation's on the rise, and we don't want that price to go up.
Boris Johnson's hospitals haven't appeared yet, have they? I don't want to get too political, but
absolutely not. So we already, not us, but they've already raised £20,000 towards that, which is a fair, it's a fair chunk, and we've got lots and lots of plans in place to raise money through events, but also through running, which, as you just said, is the reason this podcast has been born, I guess. So my running journey, I mean, I've never been a really competent runner. I've been, I'm prepared to put the effort in when it suits, really. But
you have to.
Yeah, but really, when I was at secondary school, I was always the kid who was chosen on sports days to do like the 800 metres or the 1500 metres because none of the other elite athletes were prepared to do that. And I wasn't built. I was a chunky kid. I think that's probably the best way of describing it. So didn't run. I had an awful diet. Typical secondary school kids, be in the chip shop every lunchtime if they could. So it wasn't something that, running wasn't something for me. I like football. As you know, I'm involved in football quite heavily in Northampton. I wasn't good enough to play football basically because of my fitness. It wasn't anything else really apart from that. So then I moved to Northampton, and then I started, in the year 2000, I started refereeing. And I got to a level in refereeing, I think it was about 2005-ish. So I was probably when I was about, 27, 28. And we had to do fitness tests as part of our refereeing, because we were refereeing kind of on a national stage, if you like. I'm not talking about Football League, Premier League, lower leagues, but you had to pass this fitness test. So the fitness test in those days was you had 12 minutes to run, and you couldn't stop. If you stopped, that was it, you were out. And you had to cover 2,700 metres, which was about 4 minutes 30 kilometres now. 4 minutes 30 a kilometre, which for me at that time, and I was about 2 or 3 stone heavier than I am now, believe it or not, that was tough. But I did it every year. I'd go down the gym. I didn't really run on the streets very much. I'd normally go down the gym and I'd just run for 12 minutes on the treadmill as fast as I could. And I always used to kind of scrape over the line. Literally 12 minutes, the whistle would go, and I'd have done 2,701 metres or something like that. And all the lads were like, I don't know how you do it. I'd do the last lap in about 1 minute 20 or something. I'd just be running around as fast as I could. So yeah, I carried on doing that. Then thankfully they reduced the fitness test to 2,600 metres, which is an absolute bonus. But then I got promoted again and I had to do 2,700 metres again. But anyway, I could train for that. It was 12 minutes. It sounds easy, but if you're not a runner, it's a lot more difficult than you would imagine. So then I went from that, and in 1997, my granddad passed away, but he had Alzheimer's before he died, and it affected him a lot, affected the family. So I always said that one day I'll do a run, or I'll raise some money for Alzheimer's somehow. 6 years ago, I decided I was going to do. I entered. I think I'd had a few beers one night, and I decided. I was just looking on the internet. And I saw this half marathon, and I thought, I'll tell you what, I'll have a go at that. I only had to raise like £300 for Alzheimer's. I thought that'd be easy. Half marathon, not a marathon, but it'll still be a challenge. So got given a place by Alzheimer's research, and went down to London, did a bit of fundraising. In fact, that was the first time. Actually, no, it wasn't. It was the second time I'd run a comedy night. So I raised a lot of money through that, and my friend Luke Scott, he did it with me. He did the event with me because his friend's father, he was really young, I think in his 50s, got a brain tumour, and sadly he died. So he wanted to do something for that charity, and I was going to do something for Alzheimer's. So we both did a comedy night together. I ran the London Landmarks half marathon. He went a bit further and did the Isle of Wight challenge, which is, if you don't know what the Isle of Wight challenge is, it's 60 odd miles, and you've kind of got 24 hours-ish to do it in. So I remember, because we were tracking him, and at the end, we were like, it's going really slow, and then the pictures started coming through of his feet, and how he was suffering, and he was kind of being dragged over the line by his now fiance, who also did it and seems to do no training whatsoever, and just kind of walked and did this 60 odd miles. Like, it was nothing. Like, don't you just hate people like that? But yeah, so I did that one, and then in 2018, obviously when Daisy passed away, we started taking running a bit more seriously, really.
Yeah, and I think you've done the Great North Run twice, 3 times.
Well, actually, the first time I met Michelle, was at park run. So after Daisy passed away, me and my oldest son, Lewis, he would have been, now this isn't testing me, he was about 9 at the time, and we decided we were going to do 100 kilometres in 50 days. So we were just doing kind of 1 or 2 kilometres at a time. He was a lot fitter than I was. But yeah, we were doing that, and we met Michelle because we started doing the park run together. And I was like, who was that woman on the corner shouting? You know, she was shouting signs at people, encouraging people, 4 or 5 years down the line. Now I know who it is, because obviously we built up a good relationship. So we did the 100 kilometres in 50 days. We finished it off at the Santa Run 10K. It was December 2018, and that was our 100. And we raised over £1,000, between. He raised a lot more than I did, to be fair. And I kind of then got the bug of, I can do stuff here, I can make a difference, I can raise money, for various charities. And then I started doing the London Landmarks regularly. We set up a virtual run, which, again, was really, really successful. And we were just getting lots and lots of support in doing things. I was like, I'm just going to carry on doing it. And then obviously, 2020, the pandemic came along and kind of everything kind of stopped. So yeah, that was frustrating. But at that time, we were still talking about the bereavement suite, but not getting very far because of, as you know, red tape, trying to jump over so many different barriers. But we're still in touch with Rachel at the Rachels as well. So yeah, so we went from there, and then we did the Great North Run. So there's another charity called Bodie Hodges who is named after Bodie Hodges. He's a child. He died when he was only 2, and they set up a charity, and they built a boathouse on Tallington Lakes in Lincolnshire, and we went to stay there. It's a respite centre, a break centre for people who've been bereaved. And so I ran the Great North Run for them in 2021, and I was in a lot better shape, I should say, at that point than I was when I did it in 2022. So I bought a place after the 2021 edition where you can guarantee yourself a spot for 3 years. So literally, and I feel ashamed of myself to admit this publicly, I literally did no training for it whatsoever. If you remember, because we did a park run together, didn't we, at Leamington, I think it was.
That's right, yeah.
And after that, I felt my foot was really hurting, and I went and played cricket that afternoon, and I said to the captain that I'm not being funny, but I can't move, so you just have to stand me somewhere and hope the ball comes to me. So I couldn't move. I ended up with plantar fasciitis in my foot. Literally couldn't do anything for like 4 to 5 months. Even every time I started to come back, it would inflame again, and I was back to square one. Eventually got better. So I can't use that as an excuse, but I honestly just rocked up in Newcastle, and first few miles I thought, this is all right, I feel okay, the crowd are there, like, yeah, this is good. 4 miles in, I was running with my mate Humpo, Andy Humphreys, who I must mention, he did 11 marathons in 11 days once a few years back, but he tells me this every day. He can. So I got to about 4 miles and I went, I'm starting to feel it a little bit now. I got to about 5 or 6 miles and it was like, you seen the film Forrest Gump, I said, just leave me, just go. And I walked a bit, I ran some more, then I walked a bit, and I ended up finishing. I finished it, but I think I was 30 minutes slower than the previous year. And at the end I thought, I'm never ever going to put myself through that again, in terms of, the not embarrassment, but, just not treating it with respect, I think is what I should say. I didn't treat, the Great North Run with enough respect, and that told. So, yeah, so going back, there was Luke has always been adamant that we were all going to do the Isle of Wight challenge together, and we were like, yeah, whatever, 60 odd miles, blimey. So in a moment of weakness,
and you had more beers.
In a moment of weakness, we said, say what, we'll do it. So I said, I'll do it if you do it, yeah. And then somebody else said, yeah, I'll do it. And then somebody else said, I'll do it. And then we've ended up with about 13 people doing it. Bev, who's been with us like with Team Daisy right from the beginning, she's doing a quarter of it, so you can do quarters, you can do over 48 hours. But we said the rest of us, we're going to do it. Start in the morning and just carry on going until we finish it. A mixture of experience in the team. Luke's done it twice, I believe. There's a guy called Darren Brockwell. He's done it several times. This is a guy who finished refereeing because he had a heart condition. Now he runs ultramarathons. That doesn't make sense, does it? He does it. He goes into the desert. Does it every week. You look on Facebook. He's done another marathon or an ultra or a half marathon like it's nothing.
Yeah, but you can't do that 15-minute fitness test.
No, ridiculous, isn't it? But yeah, he's on the team. I've got Andy Humphreys and Chris, who I work with. Chris has kind of got no running experience whatsoever, apart from he does 5k every week. So we kind of, I don't like to use the word forced, but manipulated him into it. We've got Joe Wilmer who's doing it. He's just done his first London Marathon. He wants to do it again. Tom Cook, he's done a couple of London marathons as well. We've got a whole host of Horners. So Darryl Horner and David, his son, and there's a guy called Alex who's somehow related to one of those. They're all doing it. Darryl's just doing his. He's in his 50s. I won't embarrass him by saying how old he is, but he's just finished the Beachy Head Marathon. Now, I believe Michelle's done that one.
Michelle's done that. She talks about it with absolute dread as the hardest marathon she's ever done, ridiculously hilly and just generally hard.
Well, yeah, it's 4,000 feet of elevation apparently. And then we've got a couple of us doing it. My brother's doing it. So he's been a big fan, of running. Not really, but he's done the London landmarks with us before. He's done that a couple of times. And finally, how could I not mention Chris Rowland, another one who I forced into doing this challenge pretty much. He's literally got no experience of running half marathons, anything like that. So for him to do this for Team Daisy means a lot to us, and I think it's going to hurt him a lot. Yeah, all in all, there's about 13 or 14 of us taking part as well, so it's going to be a big challenge. We know that.
How does it sort of make you feel that this many people, friends, family, will do something ridiculous that's going to really probably hurt them quite a lot to help you in your charity?
I didn't realise I had so many stupid friends, to be honest with you. So no, obviously it's a big thing. It's a lot of commitment to it as well. It's not just kind of the running side. It's the training that people are going to have to do. It's getting there as well, because obviously we have to cross some water down by Southampton, whatever it's called. So yeah, we've got to go there, and then the good thing is, because we're starting on the Saturday, so I think it's the 29th and the 30th of April next year, the Monday is a bank holiday, which is, it's going to give us another 24 hours to recover from what's likely to be the most painful experience of our lives. But as I say, we've got a good team. We've got, as I said, Luke's doing it as well, and his friend Rob Evans, our friend Rob Evans. He's involved as well, and again another person with experience of running half marathons, but when we're talking, what is it, five times that. But when you do London landmarks or a half marathon or whatever, generally at the end you always see somebody with a sign that says, with 5k to go, just another park run. We're going to have just another 20 park runs or something ridiculous. It is crazy. I know, but I think we'll all, we'll finish it. Of course we will.
Oh, I think you have great fun. You're probably going to hate each other and the whole thing at some point through, but I think at the end of it, A, massive achievement, and B, you'll look back at it quite fondly, actually. That actually brings me to kind of the next thing I was going to ask, because you spoke about, you weren't really a runner, you're sort of forced to do it a bit at the horrible distances nobody else wanted to do at school. You've done a lot of running since, but with Daisy pushing you along, do you actually like running?
Not really. And I said this on the first time I met Michelle. I do. I like the social side of it in terms of like parkrun. I think parkrun's brilliant. you meet lots of new friends, and working with Step Forward Lewis has opened different avenues for everybody. But I'm not a great fan of going out by myself and doing running, and I find now it's because of my job, because I work in education, as you know, and because of all the other stuff and family and things, I find it really difficult to find the time, or being able to find the time to go to things I want to do. So I know about the Step Forward Lewis classes, and this is not a plug for you, but I prefer to go and do that rather than be out on the streets by myself, especially at this time of year. But all I think about now, apart from Daisy, is the Great North Run 2022. That it was only 13 miles, but it could quite easily have finished me off, to be honest, because it was just ridiculous. But again, it's another thing is kind of when you do these races and you see the encouragement of people. We've got a tight-knit community group. I mean, I spend most of my time on social media trying to be hilarious, sometimes successfully, often not. That's the kind of, the thing. And, going back, being a bit more serious, it's kind of, I haven't got a choice now. I've got, it's everywhere. The Northamptonshire Health Charity, they're dependent on us. We're all dependent on each other. So I can't now go, you know what, don't fancy doing 62 miles in April. I'm going to just slide back into the background of, we're posting on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter all the time about things that we're doing. We're running comedy evenings, quizzes, football matches, all kinds of stuff. So we've got to, raise this money. So if there's any businesses out there who want to get involved, just search for Team Daisy on Facebook and we'll be happy to accommodate you.
Yeah, look, plug time. Tell where can people go if they want to sponsor you for any of these challenges, or just to find out more about Team Daisy generally? Yeah,
so I do know a lot of people when I'm walking out anywhere, or I'm in town or anything, and I'm with somebody. They always say, "Well, how do you know so many people?" And I'm just like, well, it's either through football, through work, through being very friendly. But yeah, so we've got somebody who I know who's building us a new website, teamdaisy.co.uk. We're on Facebook, at Team Daisy Chalmers. We're on Instagram. We're also on Twitter. So, and again, that's another challenge of trying to keep all these things updated at the same time. So it takes up a lot of your time, but it's worth it. It's good. We're starting to get more publicity. And now, before we were just an organisation trying to raise awareness. Now we're an organisation that's going to have a legacy built in Daisy's name, really.
Yeah, excellent. Well, what we'll do is we'll definitely make sure we put all those details in the show notes so people can go and find them, have a little look at everything you're doing, hopefully give you lots of money towards what you're doing as well, because it is really important. It's going to be a fantastic legacy for Daisy and for all the hard work that you and lots of other people have done on the road. Obviously, I guess the hospital is one part of this, but in terms of your running, what's your sort of long-term goals if you have any? Is there just I mean, you're doing a longer distance at it, but is there a marathon in you at some point?
Yeah. So, I mean, that is really quite important as well. So, we're not just gonna rock up April 29th and just having run the streets for 5-6 months or whatever it is. Which seems to be getting shorter and shorter. But we're going to do some half marathons to start off with. I actually got a ballot placed in the London landmarks, which would be like a walk in the park, I would imagine, by March. But we're going to do some marathons in between. There's an event, I think, in February, I think it's in Huntingdon, where it's a 6-hour run, and you do as many laps as you can within 6 hours. I know you've mentioned as well there's a 30 miler or 30k? Is it 30k? One in
the Stanford Striders one.
Yeah.
It's 30k.
So, and I know that's quite tough apparently, so I've been told. So we're going to be looking at stuff like that. So before we do the ultra, my plan is to do a marathon, probably after Christmas, and then see where we go from there. And maybe I might even start enjoying running. You never know. I never say never.
Wayne Chalmers, thank you very much for joining us on Running Tales, and all the best with everything you're doing.
Thanks very much. It's been an absolute pleasure. And as I say, keep following us on social media and we'll get there.
Thank you for joining us today on the Running Tales podcast. If you like what we do, please follow us on Facebook. Our page is called Running Tales, or on Twitter at Running Tales Pod. We'd also really appreciate it if you could leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast, Apple and Spotify, anywhere else. Those reviews make more people find the podcast and listen to the wonderful stories of the people we have on there. That's all for this week, and we look forward to seeing you on next week's Running Tales podcast.